6-Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to 6-Minute English. I'm Rob.
And I'm Will. Hello.
Hi there, Will. Now, I have to say, I like that shirt you're wearing today. I haven't seen that one before.
Yes, I got it at the weekend. But to be honest, I don't give my clothes much thought. I just throw on the first thing I see. What about you?
Well, I try to look presentable. I wouldn't want to appear too scruffy. Clothes say an awful lot about us, don't they, Will?
A lot depends on the job you do. In a bank, you're supposed to look pretty smart all the time.
But if you work for a design company, say, a suit would look out of place. That means unsuitable. People in the creative industries tend to dress down. That means dress casually. You know, jeans and a T-shirt.
Yes. Then there's the whole question of what to wear to an interview. I reckon if you put on something smart, you can't go far wrong.
Yes, but the meaning of clothes goes far deeper than what you should or shouldn't wear in the workplace, Will. It can really influence what people think of us. Now, rightly or wrongly, they can make snap judgments or quick decisions about us.
Yes, you're right. It's a cultural issue. It's about how we see ourselves too.
Now, take the sari. It's been around for centuries and is still the main form of dress for millions of women in the Indian subcontinent.
That's that very long garment with all those amazing colours and designs, isn't it? It always looks so elegant.
Yes, it does. So, Will, can you answer this question? What is the maximum length of a sari? Is it A, 12 metres, B, 9 metres, or C, 7 metres?
Surely it can't be 12 metres long. I'm going to say 9 metres.
OK, well, we'll find out if you're right or wrong later on. But now let's listen to Dr. Sahinder Bari talking about the sari. She uses a word that means covered. Can you hear what it is?
Saris encircle the waist, are often pleated and then swept across the upper body with folds of fabric draped over the shoulder or veiling the head. There are more than 80 different ways of wearing a sari, and they've been worn in the Indian subcontinent since the first millennium. It's a garment woven into the histories of the countries from which it comes.
So, draped means covered. Then she used the word garment. That's another word for a piece of clothing. And then she said there are 80 ways of wearing a sari, Rob. Amazing.
It is, isn't it? Some Asian women in the West wear saris just for ceremonial occasions. That means special events like weddings. I suppose, in a sense, it's not that practical for day-to-day use. But it certainly makes a beautiful splash of colour or a display of colour when they do wear it.
What she said has got me thinking about English traditional dress. And to be honest, Rob, I can't recall anything off the top of my head.
Off the top of your head, Will. That's because you're not wearing a hat.
Don't be ridiculous, Rob. Off the top of my head. It's an idiom. And it means I can't think of anything immediately.
Yes, Will, I do know that actually. It was my attempt at a joke. But you're right. The British dress sense has become a bit samey. It looks the same, apart from the fashion industry, which is highly regarded throughout the world.
Well, you wouldn't catch me wearing most of the men's gear you see on the catwalk.
But seriously, Will, clothes are undoubtedly an important business. Let's listen to Dr. Sahinder Bari again as she reflects on her mother's use of the sari.
And yet the sari makes me feel safe too, because I associate it with her body and the world she made for me. And now, as I struggle to keep hold of the sari, the rituals and the memories around it, I fear losing the world it signifies. And her too.
She talked about the way she struggles, that means she finds it difficult, to make the sari important in her life.
And she uses the word signifies, which means giving the meaning of something. The sari obviously has an emotional attachment for her.
And when you think just how much money people spend on clothes, it shows how vital it is.
And let's not forget football shirts, Will. Fans want to be seen in their team's latest shirt design, don't they? I know I do.
By the way, what team do you support, Rob?
Oh, well, it's Chelsea, of course. Come on, you Blues! What about you, Will?
Tottenham Hotspur.
Never mind. Someone has to. Now, remember at the beginning of the show, I asked you, what is the maximum length of a sari? Is it A, 12 metres, B, 9 metres, or C, 7 metres?
Yes, and I said 9 metres.
Well, you know your saris well because that is the right answer. Well done. Now, before we go, it's time to remind ourselves of some of the vocabulary that we've heard today. Will.
Scruffy, out of place, dress down, make snap judgments, draped, garment, ceremonial occasions, splash of colour, off the top of my head, struggle, signifies.
Thank you, Will. Well, that's the end of today's 6 Minute English. You can listen to more programmes on our website at bbclearningenglish.com. Please join us again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
6 Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Rob.
And I'm Neil. Hello.
Hi there, Neil. Now, Neil, what's that on your face?
What? This?
Yeah.
It's a beard, Rob. Have you never seen one before?
I have, but I've never seen one on you before. And I'm surprised to say it looks good on you.
Oh, well, thank you. I thought I'd get on the beard bandwagon, you know. Beards are all the rage at the moment. That means very fashionable.
And to get on a bandwagon is when you join other people in doing something that has become popular. Perhaps because you hope to become popular yourself.
Oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, Rob, because as you know, I'm very popular already.
Yes, I know that, of course. Right, anyway, beards are such a talking point, a subject that a lot of people are discussing, that we decided to talk about them on today's programme. So, are you ready for today's question, Neil? What's the name for someone who loves beards? Is it A, barbophile, B, pagonophile, or C, pelophile?
All the answers sound tempting, but I'm going to go for A, barbophile.
Right, OK, well, we'll find out if you're right or wrong later on. But this is interesting. A new scientific study suggests that the more beards there are in a population, the less attractive they become. And this currently gives clean-shaven men a competitive advantage.
Oh no, that's bad news for me then. Competitive advantage means when a condition or circumstance puts you in a favourable position. In this case, being clean-shaven or having no facial hair.
That's right. We've reached peak beard, apparently. Beard popularity has peaked or reached its highest point and will decline in popularity from this point.
OK, let's listen to writer Lucinda Hawksley talking about beards through history. And listen out for a word that means women struggle to achieve the same rights and opportunities as men.
It's interesting, when I was writing the book, I came to realise that the most heavily bearded times in Britain are either when women are in power, such as Elizabeth I or Queen Victoria, or when there's a big discussion of feminism. And it is really interesting that the last few years there's been so much more discussion of feminism. You get a woman on the throne and men go, oh, I've got to grow a beard. Or it's really strange. Or in the 60s and 70s with all the kind of, big thing about women's libs, suddenly the beard becomes huge here.
Well, needless to say, Lucinda doesn't have a beard, but she certainly knows a lot about them. She's the great-great-granddaughter of famous writer Charles Dickens, who sported, or wore, a very flamboyant beard. Flamboyant means eye-catching and different.
Now, did you spot the word for women's struggle to achieve the same rights as men?
Yes, it's feminism. She also talks about women's lib, which is short for women's liberation. And this has a similar meaning to feminism. So what do you think, Neil? Are beards a show of testosterone in reaction to powerful women? Is that why you've grown your beard?
I don't think it's testosterone. That's the main male hormone. For me, it's laziness. I'm flying the flag for men's lib. Liberation from the razor.
Right. Well, I'm not sure whether that's a worthy cause or not, Neil. Let's hear from Brock Elbank, the photographer behind the exhibition Beard. He's talking about one of the people he photographed.
I found Jimmy on a friend's Facebook page whilst I was in Sydney, Invited him to come to my home studio for a portrait, and I posted it, and it got reblogged over 500,000 times in 4 hours. I mean, I think when I met Jimmy, he told me about his Beard Season Melanoma charity, and I was kind of on board from the get-go.
So, Jimmy must have a pretty awesome beard.
Indeed. We should check out the beard exhibition and find out. But Jimmy has a beard for a special reason, right, Neil?
That's right, yes. Brock mentions Jimmy's melanoma charity. Melanoma is a serious type of skin cancer, and Jimmy is raising money and awareness to help people who suffer from it.
And Brock says he was on board from the get-go, meaning he wanted to be involved with the charity right from the start.
We should also mention Movember and Decembeard. Both campaigns invite men to get hairy for good causes.
That's right, good causes. Moustaches in November and beards in December. Now let's have the answer to the quiz question. I asked, what's the name for someone who loves beards? Was it A, barbophile, B, pogonophile, or C, pelophile?
And I said A, barbophile.
Wrong, I'm afraid. The answer is actually B, pogonophile.
Oh, well, you can't win them all. Now then, Rob, can we hear today's words again?
Sure. We heard all the rage, get on a bandwagon, talking point, competitive advantage, clean shaven, peaked, sport, flamboyant, feminism, women's lib, testosterone, melanoma, on board from the get-go.
Well, that's the end of today's 6-Minute English. We hope it wasn't too hair-raising for you. Please join us again soon.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
6-Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to 6-Minute English. I'm Rob.
And I'm Finn. Hello, Rob.
Hi there, Finn. I have to say, you've got a lean and hungry look today.
Really? I'll take that as a compliment, shall I?
Yeah, please do. Do you want a donut?
Actually, yeah. Oh, can I have two? So, what are we talking about today, Rob?
We're talking about skinny or very thin models and whether there should be a law banning them from working on the catwalk. And a catwalk is the long runway that models walk down at fashion shows.
Well, no danger from me there, Rob. I think I like eating a little bit too much.
And there's no danger of you becoming a model anyway, Finn, because you're not good looking enough, I'm afraid.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you, Rob. That's very nice of you.
You're welcome.
I think it's time for today's quiz question, please.
OK, well, here goes. Which country banned the use of underweight models in 2013? Was it A, Israel, B, Canada, or C, the US?
You know what? I've got no idea, so I'll take a guess and say A, Israel.
OK, well, we'll find out if that's the right answer later on.
OK.
So, come on, Finn, what do you think? Are the models we see on the catwalk and in the media too skinny?
Well, yeah, I think some models do look fantastic, but others look painfully thin. Now, the media, by the way, refers to the different ways information is communicated to us. So, for example, through TV, radio, magazines, and often the internet and newspapers.
OK, well, let's listen to Jamie Gavin, founder and managing director of media agency InPress, talking about a new French law being discussed preventing the use of underweight models. Can you spot a phrase that means a limit or an ending?
I think it's a BMI of 18 or less that is hopefully going to be banned by the French Assembly today. This is what the US Health Organization states as being kind of clinically unhealthy. So it's almost like a cut-off point. Yes, be thin. Yes, be thinner than the general population. But once it starts getting to unhealthy territory, really that's time to start banning it.
And the French Assembly did pass this law a few days later. Now, did you spot the phrase for a limit or an ending? It's cut-off point.
So models that are too thin will be banned or won't be allowed to work. And the cut-off point is a BMI of 18 or less.
Now, BMI stands for Body Mass Index. And this is the ratio of a person's height to their weight. A ratio means the relationship between two things, showing how big one thing is compared to another.
But what happens if you're just naturally really thin? The authorities could be accused of discrimination against skinny people or treating some people less fairly than others.
That's right, it's a good point. And that's why the French authorities and those of some other countries are using BMI as a way of deciding. So models with a BMI of 18 or less weigh too little when compared to how tall they are.
And clinically unhealthy, well, what does that mean?
Well, it means you need medical treatment for a condition or illness.
Now, anorexia is an illness where a person refuses to eat in order to lose weight. But some models these days are so skinny they do look anorexic.
You're right. Let's hear more from Jamie Gavin, talking about protecting the health of models. Now, what phrase is used to mean the responsibility?
The theatrical agents and the modelling agents that have got a responsibility to look after their clients. There's a huge amount of pressure on both the agent and on the models themselves. And really the book lies with them in making sure that these people are healthy and that they're looking after their careers as well.
So the problem with the modelling industry is that the agents who employ the girls put pressure on or strongly persuade them to lose weight.
And in this way, they aren't taking care of their clients. They're actually putting them at risk. Now, why is that, Rob?
It's because many people in the fashion industry prefer very thin models. So it's a case of supply and demand. The agents are simply supplying the fashion industry with the type of girls they want.
Right. And what does the reporter mean when he says the buck lies with the agents?
When the buck lies or stops with someone, it means it's his or her responsibility, not someone else's. And agents who employed underweight models can face fines of up to €75,000 or even prison sentences.
OK. Shall we hear the answer to today's quiz question?
OK, well, I asked you which country banned the use of underweight models in 2013. Was it A, Israel, B, Canada, or C, the US?
I said A, Israel.
And you were right, Finn. Well
right,
done. OK, now shall we listen to the words we learned today?
We heard skinny, catwalk, media, cut-off point, band, BMI, that's body mass index, ratio, discrimination, clinically, anorexia, put pressure on, supply and demand, and the buck stops with, or the buck lies with.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of today's 6 Minute English. We hope you had a healthy interest in today's programme. Please join us again soon.
Donut?
Go on then. Bye.
Bye.
6 Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Catherine.
And hello, I'm Rob.
Now, Rob, do you ever buy things at a charity shop?
Yes, I do. They are a great place to pick up a bargain, and I also donate items to charity shops too. And a charity shop, by the way, is a shop where people take their unwanted items and then the shop sells them and makes money, and the money goes to charity.
Exactly. That's good to hear, Rob, because donating, that's giving money or goods to an organisation, helps charities raise money. And you might be interested to know that dressing up in second-hand clothes is back in fashion. Well, sort of, and that's what we're discussing today. Is looking like you're dressing in charity shop clothes a new fashion statement?
It should be interesting, but first, Catherine, aren't you going to set me a question to answer and not a second-hand one, please?
It's a brand new question today, Rob. For you and the listeners at home, do you know when the first official charity shop opened its doors in the UK? Was it in A, 1928, B, 1948 or C, 1968?
I'll go for 1948.
OK, and we'll find out the answer later. But now back to our discussion about charity shops and fashion. And there's a new look in town which some people are calling Scumbro. Scumbro combines the word scummy, which means dirty and messy, with the word bro, which is an informal way of referring to a boy or a man. So, scumbro is a fashion for men, but women can adopt it too.
It's a bit of an insulting name, and here's the odd thing about this new fashion style. Being scumbro is about buying expensive designer brands that look like they're from a charity shop. Very odd.
Well, it's something Amber Grafland knows about. She's the fashion and beauty director for the Daily Mirror newspaper, and she's been telling BBC Radio 4's You and Yours programme all about it. So, how did this trend start?
Well, I think the name came from a Vanity Fair article. And I think Justin Bieber, the likes of Jonah Hill to thank for this look. Pete Davidson, who's actually the fiancé of Ariana Grande, he's definitely one of the founding fathers of scumbro. And I think, like most of these trends, they're started by celebrities. And then it's being picked up by everybody by the sounds of things.
OK, so the fashion magazine Vanity Fair invented the name, but the trend has spread because celebrities have been dressing in this style.
Yes, and Amber mentioned a number of celebrities who are the founding fathers of the trend. That's a term used to describe people who start an idea or an organisation.
Yes, the trend has been picked up or copied by people who you might describe as fashion victims, people who have to follow the latest fashion trends.
Well, Rob, I'm no fashion victim, but I say maybe one day I might want to look scumbro or maybe scum cis. So how exactly should I dress? OK, well, let's hear from Amber Grafland again. How does she describe the characteristics of this fashion trend?
It's all about wearing these oversized clothes that are overpriced. And I think it's not just about looking like you've rummaged in a teenager's dressing up box. These are very, very expensive items. You mentioned the labels Prada, Versace, Gucci, Supreme. While it's basically about looking simultaneously like you've made no effort, but the underlying thing is that you do need to see that the effort has gone in there.
Wow, this fashion trend does involve a lot of effort. It's not just about looking messy, like you've rummaged in a teenager's dressing up box. Rummaging is when you search for something that's mixed up with lots of other things.
No, don't be rummaging. The trick seems to be to look like you've not made any effort, but at the same time, you're showing that you have made an effort. And that's the meaning of the word simultaneously, doing one thing at the same time as another thing.
And I guess by showing you've made an effort, you wear designer labels, showing you've paid lots of money.
The issue here is clothes from charity shops are supposed to be cheap. Some people even buy these clothes because it's all they can afford. But the irony here is some people are choosing to pay lots and lots of money to look like they're wearing second-hand clothes. And the charity shops aren't making any money from it.
Well, if you're a fashion victim, it's something you have to do.
And there's one thing I have to do now, and that's give you the answer to today's quiz question. So I asked you earlier when the first official charity shop opened its doors in the UK.
And I said 1948.
And you are correct this
Hooray.
week, Rob. Well done. The very first shop run by the charity Oxfam opened its doors in Oxford in 1948 as a direct result of an appeal launched to help post-war Greece.
Very interesting. Right, well, let's remind ourselves of some of today's vocabulary, starting with the word donating, which means giving goods or money to an organisation or charity.
Then we mentioned founding fathers, a term used to describe people who start an idea or an organisation.
We also mentioned that Catherine was no fashion victim, a person who has to follow the latest fashion trends.
Rummaging was a word that described searching for something that's mixed up with lots of other things. And then we had simultaneously, which means doing one thing at the same time as doing something else.
Well, you can simultaneously listen to this programme and look at our website if you like. The web address is bbclearningenglish.com.
But that's all we have time for now. Join us again next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
6 Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Neil.
I see you're wearing trainers today, Neil.
Of course, I don't wear anything else.
Well, trainers, or to use the American term, sneakers, are the subject of today's show. They are ubiquitous. That means you can find them everywhere. People wear them across the globe. Men, women, kids, teenagers and pensioners. And did you know that 85% of people who buy trainers don't wear them for sport?
That makes sense to me. I wear mine because they're comfortable.
They're also very tatty. That means old and in bad condition, if you don't mind me saying so.
I should probably get a new pair.
There's a lot of choice out there. High tops, gel, air, classic, retro, the list goes on. But before we go any further, I have a question for you. What's a popular US slang term for trainers? Is it A, kicks, B, wedges, or C, flats?
I'll go for kicks.
OK, well, we'll find out if you got the answer right later on in the show. Now, it has become socially acceptable to wear athletic apparel or clothing, including trainers, in situations where 10 years ago it would not.
Yes, I think my apparel of jeans and tatty trainers is socially acceptable at our workplace anyway.
Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, is famous for his dressed-down or informal look of hoodies and trainers. You can pay anything from a few pounds for unbranded trainers to thousands of pounds for limited edition brands like Nike or Adidas. And limited edition means something produced in very small numbers.
Why would anybody spend £1,000 on trainers? And how many people would actually recognise that you were wearing Nike limited edition ones rather than regular ones?
Other sneakerheads, Neil. A sneakerhead is somebody who collects limited edition sneakers. It's an American term. But trainers are not new. In the 19th century, people wore sneakers as a mark of their prosperity or economic success. Let's listen to Elizabeth Semmelhack, curator of the Barter Shoe Museum in Toronto, in Canada.
This new industrial age actually ushered in a new class, the emerging middle class, that was able to now have leisure time because of their new economic success. And so what they did was they wanted to sort of express the fact that they had leisure time by playing, but they also wanted to signify that they were doing these things by their sartorial choices. And so the sneaker, in part, was invented to meet the needs of this new class so that they could very conspicuously show that they were playing.
What does it mean to usher in, Sophie?
It means to mark the beginning of something. In this case, the Industrial Revolution marked the beginning of a new social class, the middle class, who made a lot of money from industry.
And why were they interested in trainers?
They wanted a way of showing people that they were so rich they didn't need to work all the time. And by wearing trainers, they were saying, I'm busy playing tennis. Sartorial, by the way, means related to clothes.
These days, wearing trainers doesn't reveal much about social class. For example, Mark Zuckerberg and I look surprisingly similar in our hoodies and trainers. You'd have to guess which one of us was a multi-billionaire and which one was not.
People respond to current trends in popular sport through the trainers they wear. And here's Matt Powell for the US Consumer Research Group, NPD, to tell us more.
When I first got into the retail business in the 70s, the sexy sport, if you will, was tennis. And we all wore tennis apparel for casual wear, and we played tennis, and we wore tennis shoes. And we identified with athletes like McEnroe and Borg and Connors. Over time, though, it has become even a broader range. There was a jogging craze in the 70s. Everybody was out jogging, and then that became a full-fledged running business. The basketball business really exploded in the mid-late 80s with the emergence of Michael Jordan.
So Matt Powell knows a thing or two about current consumer trends. He says in the 1970s there was a craze, or enthusiasm, for tennis and jogging, and this led to big sales of the apparel associated with these sports.
Are tennis shoes still sexy, Sophie?
Maybe, but basketball high tops are sexier. Michael Jordan started that trend back in the 1980s, and it's still going strong. Well, we're running out of time. Let's go back to our quiz question. I asked you, what is a slang term for trainers? Is it A, kicks, B, wedges, or C, flats?
It has to be kicks. I'm right, aren't I?
I have to tell you, Neil, you're right.
Yes.
Wedges are shoes or boots with a triangular wedge-shaped heel, and flats are a woman's shoe with no heel.
I know my onions, you see, Sophie.
Yes, in other words, you know a lot about something you do. Now, let's remember the words we heard today.
Ubiquitous, tatty, apparel, dressed down, limited edition, sneakerhead, prosperity, usher in, sartorial, craze, know your onions.
That's the end of today's 6 Minute English. Don't forget to join us again soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
6 Minute English.
From BBC Learning English.